Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 13 of the NFP podcast presented by 3D Entertainment. The NFP podcast is brought to you by Sneaky Weasel Lager and Hey Y'all Southern Iced Tea, the official alcohol sponsor of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, happy to have you today on our very first bullfighting Cowboy Protection corner, all about the men in the arena, putting it all on the line for bull riders as well as the freestyle side of things. But before we get into that, as always, with me today, Jason Davidson. How you doing, bud?
I'm good there, young man. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah. Getting by.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got our old foe back. He made her back. Missed you last week there, Scott.
The one and only Scott Burns back as well.
Yeah, sorry guys, had to take a timeout again. Fortunately, it was minus 6,200 below here, and things kind of caught up to me. So no,
deep freeze we were in.
Oh my God, yes, yeah, it was a gooder. But anyway, yeah, good to be back. How's everybody doing?
Good. It's warmed up a little bit, so
I can't yeah. We got back up to the cabin, bought an ice fishing shack.
Yeah, I've
seen that.
Yeah, nice one. We hung our TV in it. So I watched the one period of the Lake Placid game, and then they had a 8-hour
delay.
Yeah. So then we shifted to San Antone, watch San Antone and the ice fishing shack. So yeah. So now when it's minus 28, we have something to do.
Yeah.
So did you get that custom built? By the look of it, I'm not insulting you in any way, but by the look of it, it looked like someone else built that. Is that right?
Oh, thanks, Scott. What, you can't build anything?
No, I was just wondering if you and the guys got together and built it.
No, we bought it. We bought it. We drove down to Buffalo Pound there by Moose Jaw last Friday, picked her up.
Solar energy? Like, is that what you got for power in there?
No.
Oh, well, how you running the goddamn TV then? You got
energy.
A generator?
Yeah. I believe in energy.
Well, guys, since this is our bullfighting episode, as you guys know, everybody in the game has different styles and different abilities. They have their pros and their cons to the game. There's different styles of bullfighting, whether it be freestyle or Cowboy Protection. Really happy that you two are on it as two of the most decorated bullfighters to ever come out of Canada. And where I wanted to start with it is with you, Jason, and how the freestyle bullfights kind of came around when you first came around, and what freestyle bullfighting really is, essentially.
Well, to answer the second part of your question, freestyle bullfighting, it's basically an organized game of tag with a fighting bull. So there's no rider on his back, obviously. He leaves the chute, and you're timed and marked on your performance, how good the bull fights is it's very similar to bull riding, obviously.
Yeah.
You got two parts to the score, 50 for the bull and 50 for the bull fighter. So I was fortunate enough, your dad and Brett Rains and Brett Dick, they brought the Wrangler bullfights, which your dad was part of that tour back in the 80s, and they brought it back to Canada right when I was, right out of when I turned pro, I guess. And it was my first real experience at pro rodeos. It really got my foot in the door, to get to know those guys. And, it was a pretty big part of my career for the first 4 years there in the mid 90s. It was good. It was good money, real good money at the time. I got to go across the border and make the same amount of money down there, but in U.S. funds, and bring it back here at about $1.47 at that time. So, it was, got to meet lots of cool people, obviously, work with some of the, guys like, Smeths, Sparks has got to meet those guys. Greg Roomer, fought bulls against Greg Roomer quite a bit. Mike Matt, who won world championships based on performances up here in Canada. So, it was, I look back at it now, and I think I'd have to train for a few weeks before I ever set back in the arena with one of them suckers again. Yeah. But
Scott, did you get into bullfighting? Did you do the freestyle side of things?
Yeah, I did. Kind of the same thing. I was going to say, like, as Jason was talking, there's so many guys that use the freestyle bullfights to kind of use that stepping stone to, getting their own rodeos as far as the Cowboy Protection. But yeah, I was the same. I entered some bullfights in that transition period from, amateur rodeos into the pro side. And but I, unlike Jason went hard at it for a lot of years. I maybe 1-2 years dabbled in it, got through it, but it wasn't anything that I craved one bit. I mean, I guess in the heat of the battle, I liked it, but I didn't like the before leading up to it. And especially when we got out of, the crossbreds and into those, when Three Amigos, Ryan and Brett brought those full blood Mexicans to town, man, that was a whole different ball game. And, when you called for them, it was game on. So.
You better fucking mean it.
Oh yeah.
And you did. There was some bad cats, Borba. Borba was famous for their fighting bulls. Harper had all those big bad crossbreds like Iceman and Ultimate Warrior, and those were people killers. You didn't want to stub your toe in there. But yeah, Scott had a good point. You had to be game on. I wish I would have had all over again. I probably we'll touch on it with our guest here, but I wish I would have went back to the hotel room a few times a little earlier.
Took her a little serious.
Yeah.
Scott, the Cowboy Protection side of things, for those that don't know, is a total different game than the freestyle game. The freestyle game, like you said, Jason, is man versus beast, similar to bull riding. Cowboy Protection is when the cowboy or the bull rider gets bucked off the bull. That's when the bullfighters step in, or the Cowboy Protection athletes, and the job is strictly protection of those bull riders. So, Scott, you can kind of touch on that maybe, and how the systems have changed from when you guys first came around. There was times when you'd be on your own, be totally by yourself, to nowadays where there's 3, sometimes 4 guys, and it's a total team effort. Maybe you could touch on that for everybody that doesn't really know.
Yeah, with Cowboy Protection, your main focus is making sure that every bull rider gets out of that arena healthy and at any cost on a bullfighter's behalf. I know that was the main focus of every day, every time I stepped out there. And it's your job to maneuver that bull in such a way that buys that bull rider some time to get up and get out of there. And, it's often said when bull riders hit the ground, everything's disoriented. They don't know up from down. They need that split second to get up and go. So it was our job to put our body on the line and make sure that main focus of that animal was on us and not the bull rider. And, we started my career, you fought a lot of rodeos by yourself. It was just you out there. And I mean, that was okay. But as evolution of the game goes on, we went from 1 guys to 2 guys. And, I really noticed, I look back now in my career and that really defined the really good bullfighters from the guys that were just mediocre. Those guys that could fight by themselves, they didn't have to worry about anything in the arena other than that bull rider, but they didn't have to worry about a partner that was, a fellow bullfighter that was going to help save them at the same time. And that's where that teamwork came in. And a lot of guys had trouble with that transition and having that extra body out there in the arena. And it was a good thing that it did start to get like that, where we had 2 guys. And as we see now, especially in a lot of these bull ridings, there is 3 guys. And that's even better in my opinion. But here again, you're adding another element out there. And if you can't move in your triangle or across from each other all the time, we always said you wanted to be across from each other, one guy to the head picking the bull, next guy coming through, putting his body between the bull rider, and so on and so forth. As a team player, if you can't figure that out, it's not going to work. It's going to cause you more wrecks than you're going to ever prevent. So I think that transition where we went from the 1 guy into the 2 really defined, who was good and who was really good.
Yeah,
and who worked good together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was really lucky. I got to my first, I went with TJ, and there was no competition between us. There was never a competition. You just went to work. And then I worked with your dad, with Ryan, and you didn't try to compete with that guy, or you're going to get you're going to get slapped after. So, speaking of 3-man, Scott, the only time I ever worked 3-man system was you and Ryan and I in Vancouver at the Bud Light Cup. That's the only time I ever was in an arena. There was, always some guys hanging around when, a lot of those bullfights I was at, I was also doing the protection. So the bullfighters would always hang around and be on the fence just in case, but that was the only time it was in Vancouver.
Yeah. And I'll totally agree with you, because that was the first time I worked with 3 guys too. And possibly at that point in my career was first time I would have worked with 2 guys,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The 2-man system started at pro rodeo before it started at amateur rodeo.
Yeah. When it should have been the opposite.
Yeah, you're right. But, the reason
it was still one man
amateur
rodeos when I was going to it. Yeah.
Was it too? Yeah. So
still one man.
I think
it probably should have happened at the amateur level before it ever happened.
Yeah, worked its way up.
But that what's going on there. The stock contractors are trying to, they're undercutting each other from one rodeo to another. So an extra $500, that's what's make or break in a contract. It sure as hell is going to get spent on a bullfighter.
From an outsider looking in, the mechanics of the systems are all very similar, and it goes very, very smooth when you got guys that are willing to work as a team. When you see somebody out of place, it's usually for a reason. Somebody's trying to do too much or take that away from somebody else. When you work with the right team and everybody's there for the right reasons, and that reason is strictly taking care of that cowboy, it's fucking easy. It's easy, and everybody flows smoothly. Everybody rolls together. We'll ask Jesse about it. Our guest when he comes on. But it's not hard. It's very simple, and there's guys that can make it very difficult in situations that don't need to be difficult. But for those that don't know, the whichever way the bull is spinning, that's the way that team goes in that momentum, in that circle or your triangle with your 3 guys. So it's a very simple concept that can be confused by guys, but when done right, you don't even hardly know that the bullfighters are there, because everything's just hitting from one to the other.
And, even too, you're spinning with the bull or running with the bull. A good team, I mean, we're playing in a game of variables. These guys can switch it up that fast, and everybody's just going the same flow, another way. And like you said, when everybody's on the same page, it works out so good, so.
Definitely. One thing I wanted to ask you guys about too is, you see it quite a bit on the internet with young bullfighters and guys that are coming up, and in the sport, you have to take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you, and sometimes that is a hindrance when you're trying to make a name. So I see it all the time, and this is even for bull riders too, that are watching. Watch what is actually happening out there. Just because there's a bullfighter out there that fucking takes a hooking and gets mauled, that doesn't mean he did a good job. And you'll see it on the back of the chutes. You'll look on the back chutes, and everybody will be just pumped, just great job, man. Fucking, I've been in the dumb position and got fucking mowed down, and everybody's like, great work. I'm like, no, that was not great work. Just because somebody's getting fucking hooked all the time doesn't mean that they're doing the right fucking thing. Most of the time, they're probably doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. Over the years, I've had guys come from other rodeos to rodeos I was at, and they'd be like, you should see so-and-so, man. That guy, he is awesome. He took like 5 hookings last night. My question back would be, so were they necessary, or is it just cause? And lots of times guys couldn't answer that question because they've never fought a bull in their life. And more often than not, you never really heard of that guy, again for very long, just because you can only do that so long. And number one, your peers kind of force you out of the game, and number 2, your body can't take it. So I mean,
100%. How good are you to the next guy when you're throwing yourself in front of one for no reason? Like,
how good are you to the fucking bull rider that's down and you just get hooked on top of him, and you both get hooked, and everybody gets in a wreck, and you just cause a fuking shit show. Instead of maybe taking another step.
I always used to think the least amount of shit that happened in the arena. That's a good perf.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where I was going with it. If you can get in there and make a sweet save that maybe only was the perfect timing, shot the gap save, and you finish it off, that guy runs, he's good, you step back and got that feeling like you just broke that bastard down. That's what it's all about. And that's what people got to realize. Those guys that are smooth and take a hooking when they got to, between the guy that's just flogging his ass in there for no reason and causing the wreck. That's not what
you know what I learned, what it all comes down to, or what you have to have is livestock sense. I've worked with enough guys over the years all over North America, like literally, from Memphis, Tennessee to Luxton, British Columbia. If you didn't have that livestock sense, you were already one step behind.
Yeah.
That's how I like, you can't just pretend livestock. And I guess we were all fortunate enough. We grew up, all three of us grew up around it. So you had no choice really as a young, you really didn't, but you weren't fighting, your cows or whatever at home, but you learn to respect them. And, there'd be the odd, there might be one that comes out at you, but it's just to be able to be around them, Yeah.
A good example is that, James Northey, a cousin of ours, who was an outstanding bullfighter, and but there was a kid that come from the city, and he got a job at the auction mart just to learn how to step one way or step the other way to make an animal do a certain thing.
Yeah.
He had to learn that, and he was a very good bullfighter because of it. He put the time in, and I mean, it's something that can be learned, but it takes a long time. And
you see a lot of guys too that within maybe the first couple times you see them, they're like, holy fuck, and then maybe 4 or 5 years later are doing a very, very good job, and like you say, it's just that getting used to animals, the way that they move, different angles that you move around them in those certain senses, right? And then you got guys like Aaron Mercer, that's one of the best freestyle bullfighters that there's ever been, who was a ranch bronc rider, who was just an athlete and decided he was going to try freestyle bullfighting one day. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding with that guy. He's just unreal.
Yeah,
so,
it works.
Right. Yeah. There's no key to success, right? There's a bunch of different paths to it. And there's lots of guys that really kind of, you, Jason, could probably attest to this back in the day. And I've heard Rob Smets touch on this too, that there wasn't the difference in freestyle bullfighting and cowboy protection. It was just bullfighting. You didn't just do one or the other, everybody you were doing it all. And there's guys that were amazing freestyle bullfighters that weren't very good cowboy protection athletes, guys that were good cowboy protection athletes that were terrible freestyle bullfighters. So, and it's kind of crazy in that sense, because you think it's all one game, but it is two, different games. A guy like Mercer that we were just touching on, never did, do the cowboy protection side of it. He went right into freestyle bullfighting, and now is getting more into the cowboy protection side of it. But it's two total separate games.
Yeah. Well, it's like you got to keep the balls in the air on both sides of it. It's I'm going to go back to my old buddy TJ, who I learned from. Like, if you ever watch any videos of TJ freestyling, like, it's okay, just stay down. Don't go out there anymore and do that, but he did it, and he'd get around the odd time, and then he thought he'd try and jump one, and he had a vertical of an ant. You can't be half in on either. You can't. But I think there's just some natural talent, athleticism on the freestyle side that you definitely have to have the edge. And I think the edge on the protection is balls and livestock sense. Like, you gotta know when you gotta step in there. Like, you have to, some days, on the freestyle, if you mess up and get run over, that's nobody's fault but your own. There's a big difference from getting run over by a Mexican than knowing that you got to step in front of that brammer and get run over because there's a guy laying there. That's two total different.
Somebody else's life is in your hands.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm a firm believer at some of the schools that I still have the opportunity to teach. I want kids they're there for the cowboy protection, but I want kids to go to, especially younger bulls that are kicking hard, just to drive to the hip, get a hold and drive, because that helps you in the cowboy protection end of things big time. I'm not telling these kids to go out and be Aaron Mercer, but it definitely, it gets your confidence every time you can get in there and make that round.
Yeah, you gotta
exactly.
go. You gotta go. Well, Scott, you were at the bull riding school and my first bullfighting school, right? You were at that bull riding school, right?
Yeah.
Wayne, right?
I actually won the bull riding
Took
school.
the title, man.
Just saying.
Hey, just saying, I happen to win the bullfighting school.
Yeah, there you go.
High five.
Yeah, high five.
But every, I think we started with maybe 5 or 6 of us, but by day 2 or 3, I think there's 3 of us left, or 2. Yeah, maybe 3. But any of them calves, Rod Schellenberg had a lot of the bulls there. Any of them calves that wanted to hook, Ryan would say, go to him. Unless, Rod, if something really fired, Rod really didn't want you stepping around him. But you, like, when somebody says go to him, after a while, I was starting to feel like, okay, but nobody was going. So I'm not going to let, if they're kicking and just, there's just fun. And you build your confidence like that,
And that's why my son Braden, he's 17 now. He's really wanting to get into this bullfighting thing, and he's gone to a couple little deals. But I've been talking with Tanner. I want, we want to go up to PA, and I want Braden to step around some 2s, some 3s that are just kicking out there to gain that confidence, and then we'll work on the timing of getting through there when a cowboy's down or whatever. They got to gain that confidence. It helps them 100%. So it's something that, if you choose to take it as far as freestyle career, so be it. Good on you,
Scott. What about the business side of bullfighting? You were in the game longer than most, and from where you started to where it was at when you left, and money wise, I know you were always an advocate for all the guys sticking together and making sure that you guys were getting paid the amount that you should have been getting paid. How does that kind of come into play in the bullfighting world?
Well, it's kind of like anything. You got to cut your teeth, and I know I started out going for free with Jason. And it's funny how it all works, right? I shadowed under Jason for free, which got me some exposure to get my first paid rodeo, which was, $150 a day. And that's okay for a while. And that's something we try and educate, these new kids on, is that,
we weren't raising kids and putting food on the table for anybody but ourselves back then, so we could afford to do it.
Right. But, I think a thing that a lot of people got to realize, and I guess potential bullfighters got to realize, is that, you're putting your life on the line every time you step out there. And it's okay to, kind of make some money for a while. But at some point, you got to decide whether you want to make a living at this, or
you're in or you're out.
Or make it a hobby. And I was always big. My amateur career was with Skip Kelleher, always paid me top dollar at that level. I was kind of the, I guess other bullfighters are like, how much you get, and we'd all discuss it amongst each other, and that was what they kind of shot for. So I was very lucky. But moving on up, the first year I went to the Canadian Finals Rodeo, I was making $75 more than I would have at an amateur rodeo for Skip.
It was my worst paying rodeo. My last year at the CFR was the worst paying rodeo I had.
Right. So we, sometimes you just got to take action and stand up and be noticed. And we did. We got a plan together, and, whether you want to call it a union or whatever, we basically were going to go on strike until we got more money. And that kind of got the ball rolling for being paid properly for what you were doing out there. And, the last 5-6 years of my career, we were finally getting what I felt was at least proper. We weren't getting rich off it or anything, but we were getting proper pay. And a lot of guys, I was the veteran of the group, and I'm not taking credit for any of this, because they all could have told me to fuck off. But I'm like, guys, we kind of have to stick together here on a base price. Move up from that, but don't move below it. And, a lot of guys did that. And Jason, you said it, when all of a sudden, when you had 2 kids and a mortgage and a dually and a trailer to get up and down the road to all these rodeos and stuff, $300 a day doesn't cut it. So It's kind of out of necessity to make more money, right? So
and you know, in the like the chance of getting hurt, where you're not guaranteed any money. And I switched up how I did business the year I got hurt in Cloverdale in the slack, first perf, and I got wiped out, and I was done till my first rodeo back was Morris or Medicine. What comes first, Morris or Medicine Hat? Morris.
Yeah.
Okay, so from long weekend in May till July, and I missed Calgary, I missed
you miss them all.
Innisfail, Pinoca, all them. Like how, you know, like that is shitty. And then I didn't get paid my whole contract at Cloverdale. I'll never forget that. And then I just started writing in my contracts. Once I start, you know, Blair Bold was the first guy to sign that. And he said, well, we've never done that before. I said, yeah, well, you know, this is a result of last year at Cloverdale, and I explained it. And Blair said, fair enough.
That's another thing that lots of people don't understand is that even our guest today, Jesse Byrne, one of the best bullfighters that there's ever been in the world, at the highest level, if he gets wiped out the first event and there's still an event the next day or whatever, he only gets paid for that one day of event. So you get your ass hooked off, you break a leg, you get home, you get your check in the mail, and it's half of what it was supposed to be for that weekend because you got fucking killed off, which is pretty crazy.
Try living off $250 for a slack performance for all of May, June, and July.
Yeah. And you know what? I got to be honest with you, that it's just, it ain't right. And that's the bad language, but it's not right. No, but it isn't. We shouldn't. That, especially at a high level, whether it's pro rodeo or PBR or whatever, there should be no way that a man that steps in the arena to save other people's lives, put his bodies on the line, if he gets wiped out in the first birth, there's no way he should not be at least paid out, right? You know, and I guess we kind of let that happen to ourselves. Like you said, you finally got committees signing that, you know, we'll finish it off or whatever. But it just boggles my mind, and people will probably look at us and go, why do you let that happen? I really don't have the answer for that. Why do we let it happen? So,
well, you're right. You're right.
Well, a lot of it is that it's kind of a snaky business in the sense of that you speak out of turn, or you know, don't abide by the rule. There's another guy that's ready to do it for what that fucking price is at. So guys like Jason have fucking free range to take whoever they want, because there's always going to be somebody
because that's my style. You know, that's really what got me going on the endorsements back in the, you know, really at the early to mid 90s. You didn't see that. You didn't see guys wearing sponsorships on, and boy, it pissed people off because it wasn't Brahma boot in the arena or whatever. Well, you know, Brahma does this for, I understand that, but this company does this for me. You know,
if you don't like it, pay up, sucker, right?
Yeah,
you know?
Well, exactly. So that really opened up the door into, you know, not worrying about paying bills when I knew I had X amount of contracts in place for endorsements, right? So that was and look at today now, you know, that's just common practice. Everybody's doing it. Speaking
of endorsements.
Sponsor plug.
Ladies and gentlemen, sponsor plug. Sneaky Weasel Lager. If you're looking for a smooth, refreshing beer this weekend, grab yourself a Sneaky Weasel Craft Lager. This mildly hopped lager delivers a bold 5.6 ABV, but goes down crisp and clean. This beer pairs well with any bull riding celebration, fun in the sun, and good times with friends. This beer is available all across Western Canada. Sneaky Weasel Lager, the official beer sponsor of the NFP podcast.
Whoa! Just hold on a sec. Twilight, did that hell yell come from Tanner?
It's in the mail, bro.
No, didn't think so.
Yeah. That is huge, though. And that's something that I discuss with new students at schools and stuff. The better you are in the arena, the smoother you are, you know, your appearance, everything in and out of the arena, the faster you will land, you know, those potential sponsors that pay the bills throughout the year. I mean,
really good teaching. You know what I did with my teacher in Wainwright? Got slammed with him and slept with him underneath the pool table.
I remember
But it was Ryan Byrne. I didn't give a shit. Here, you can have my coat. I just want to pretend I slept beside the champ here himself.
I remember walking into Rogers Arena the next morning and seeing these bodies underneath this pool table. And I mean, I was there to dominate the bull riding world. I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
These guys are nuts, man. I'm fucking here serious.
Yeah.
That one side of that too, also, and nowadays I can really attest to it, is social media. And when I switched over to becoming a bullfighter, I knew that I wasn't going to get a bunch of work. And for all you young guys out there, I went to a bunch of CCA rodeos and everywhere that I could go to, knowing that I could video all of it and have social media whenever I did anything even half good. So in the sense of I wasn't fighting at the highest level, it didn't fucking matter if I was in Herbert, Saskatchewan. There was still going to be 100 and some thousand people online, and all the guys that you knew in that voting system that were going to do it, that we're going to watch, you know. And I really feel like that elevated me to get where I needed to be. Is I knew the systems, and I knew that would get me sponsorships, and promoted myself in the right ways and got it in front of the right people.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's the business of it. That's it right there in a nutshell. It's use every tool and angle you can to promote yourself and do your job. In the end, you can promote online, offline. I don't care where you want to do it. When it all comes down to it, it's what happens in that arena. And
exactly. Yeah. 100%.
You know, if you can't follow through, I've watched guys at schools, 10 guys line up. We're about to get started. They load bulls, and you can tell the 4 guys that just told their girlfriend, yeah, I'm going to be a bullfighter. They're shitting their pants and they're done, right? Right?
Yeah.
So
tell me one school you started with the same amount of guys, or you finished with the same amount of guys you started with.
I've had more than enough schools where I had to fight bulls at the end.
Yeah, fucking right. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, before we get too much longer, we got Jesse Byrne waiting, and he probably knows more about bullfighting than all of us put together. Maybe we'll say
he's forgot more than we're gonna know.
Yeah, he's pretty good. So we might have to do this again, because I got papers questions, and I know you guys got a lot more wisdom, and we might have to get the old legend Ryan Byrne on here one day to chat about it too. And
let's do a roast. Let's just do a roast.
Well, you better make that a 3-part then.
Okay, before we go to the interview with Jesse, one last one. Who do you kind of look at as being one of the best ever all-around bullfighters, in the arena? Maybe not freestyle, could be both Cowboy Protection, but who's kind of your guys' idol and somebody that you look up to, Scott? Other than Ryan, we all talk about that, but somebody.
Well,
or not.
Can I have 2? Because there's 2 different eras. One guy that I always watched that I was just amazed with was Rex Dunn. And that was kind of back when you could watch the NFR on TV way back in the day, the Heston NFR or whatever. And I just remember, and of course, Ryan fought his first NFR with Rex. And so I got to watch lots of footage. I just like the way that guy, now, once I started fighting bulls, I liked the way he drove around bulls and just handled it. Mr. Smooth. Yeah. And I'd have to say, in the last, like 30 or 5 years or 40 years would be Joe Baumgartner. That guy, he just handled everything in the arena. He was taller. He had that long stride, and he just was smooth.
You can reach in there.
Yeah.
Jason,
so
who do you got?
Well, obviously, I think if you're going to go, pretty well-rounded, you can't take anything away from Ryan. Obviously, he fought some of the baddest cats, but I'm not going to give him any credit today. We'll save that for his pod. I got to go with Scott on Joe and Rex, but freestyle bullfighters watching in the day, I don't think you can take anything away from Greg Rumer or Ronnie Sparks or Donnie Sparks.
Yeah, Ronnie
like
and
those
Donnie.
guys, they'd hurdle Brahmas, not just Mexicans. Now, today's freestyle bullfighting, it has evolved into it's like skiing to snowboarding almost, like with the tricks and the level of what they're doing. But those Sparks boys back in the day did it right, I think. So that's who I'd pick.
Right on. Yeah, that's cool. I like well, I love fucking Miles Hare, man. I love those video, like me and Jesse. Once we interview Jesse here, I'm sure he'll talk about it. But we grew up on the Wrangler bullfights of the '80s, just wore out.
Well, if you want to go back to that era, I'm for sure with you. Even Skipper Boss.
Skipper Boss.
I was just gonna say him. Yeah.
Rick Chapman.
The Bumblebee.
Legends, man. But yeah, Miles Hare and Mike Smurf. Smets. Like Smets lasted such a long time. 3 broken necks. Freestyle, Cowboy Protection at the highest level, World Championships. Smets and Miles Hare always stand out for me. Rex Dunn, Skipper Voss, Rick Chapman. All those guys stand out. And then obviously our guest, the person that I look up to now, Jesse Byrne, right, is I think in the last, I might be a little biased, but the last 10, 15 years, there's nobody that,
well, you guys, I mean, even the Cowboy Protection into things has evolved in strides since since your dad started. I know the end game is the same and the goal is the same at the end of the day, but guys, they move different. They have different ways of making things happen even that much better nowadays, I think. Anyways, I mean, I'm getting to the point now where I feel that I should step away from some schools and let some of these really good guys that are at the top of their game start teaching them, just because I don't want to hold the evolution of the whole job up, right?
Yeah, so, you said it right there. It has to get better. Everything has bull riding, bull riders, bulls. Everything has to get better for the sport to thrive. And if you look at any other sport, that's. But I think you're a pretty good teacher, Scott, so I wouldn't step away from it. Let's get to our guy, because like we said, he probably knows more than we do. So let's hear what he has to say about the whole bullfighting game, his career, and he's got a cool story. So I hope everybody enjoys our interview with Jesse Byrne. Our guest today is a 13-time PBR World Finals bullfighter, the first and only ever Canadian to be selected to work those finals. In addition to that, he's been to the CFR 5 times. He's been to the PBR Canada Finals 10 times. One of the greatest bullfighters to have ever lived, a stand-up athlete, and my brother, the one and only, the legend, Jesse Byrne. J-Bone, what is up?
What's up, brother?
How you doing?
Good, man. Good to see all you guys and be able to have a visit today.
I thought we were in an episode of Boys in the Hood here. All the brother, hey, brother.
And then, of course, there's one cousin.
Get right.
Gotta have the cousin.
Yeah. Okay, so let's roll with it. We've been getting lots of questions of where the fuck's Jesse Byrne at? What's going on? We haven't seen him on TV and at these events like you're regularly at on the PBR Premier Series tour. What's going on? Where you at? What's happening?
Just hiding out, man. It's been a crazy change of pace for sure. Like say, haven't been at any events for a long while. The World Finals was the last time I put the cleats on, and the bag's just been sitting collecting dust since. So at this point, it kind of just comes down to an issue with the border. I can't get down there and come back home. So it's an all or nothing sort of situation where you're either in or you're out. So for me at this point, I'm out. I just can't drop the rest of my life to go and try make a living week to week at this point. So I'm really hopeful that the border situation, the Canadian government likes to loosen this shit up a little bit, where I don't have to spend $2,000 in a holiday in jail or whatever the hell they got going on if I try re-enter the country. So yeah, we'll see. Because at this point, we're just, for those of you that don't know, I guess, independent contractors, and it just comes down to getting paid if you're working that event. So for me at this point, it's tough to break even. So here I am at home trying to make a living from here, which is new, but it's kind of cool. It has its pluses for sure.
But
Well,
you're coming
first off,
back.
welcome to the real world, like the rest of us.
Yeah, if this is the real world, what the fuck? But no, yeah, I'm not retired. I didn't quit. I just had to press pause with what's going on. So just building up some fuel in the tank. By the time I get the go ahead, I think I'll be damn good and ready, because it feels like it's been well, it has really been the longest break I've ever had.
Can you not consider yourself like essential service coming back across the border if you're working? Or is there, like, I'm not 100% aware of the rules. I think they're moving the goalposts every time. So if you go, you obviously got to quarantine. You can't just come home and quarantine in your house and then leave again the next week. That's not acceptable for them.
Well, I don't believe here now as of late that's acceptable. That's where the real risk comes into play. Is they're from what I understand, and it's like say it's changing every day, but that would be if I was to try and quarantine at home with my wife, then that would be deemed an unacceptable quarantine plan, because I'd be putting her at risk and then others in the public. So it would have to be a private residence with just me in it, or a hotel of some sort. But the last half of last year, I went down, I guess, in June for the stint in Vegas, the team event, which was fine because I was just there and stayed for the entire month, and then came back and did the 14-day quarantine after it. But then the second half of the season, I did a lot of back and forth, because it was going to be either quarantine in a hotel down there, trying to hide out and not get sick, or come back home and try and get some stuff done in the yard still, because I could at least do that. But I was trapped. I couldn't even go to town. Couldn't do shit. And then I was able to then go back to the US so I could enter and re-enter, but just couldn't be in the public, basically. But now I feel like that's gotten worse. It's even worse since then, where I don't even feel like that would be acceptable. And I'd probably be the guy that ends up in the black SUV from the Calgary airport headed to the unknown location. So I'm good on that.
Well, if you cut your hair, they might let you back in unscathed.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that.
Definitely
Don't
get
do
extra
it.
questions.
Don't do it.
It ain't
Keep the flow.
happening. It
Keep
might
the
need to get a
flow.
little thinner, but it ain't getting shorter.
That's good. So you're coming back.
Quick question. Yeah, it's a quick question. I know you kind of answered it a little bit at the start, but there was just never any point where you thought, okay, I'm going to go south, stay down there, make my presence known again for 2021. Was it something that you really had to, oh man, what am I going to do here?
For sure. Yeah, it took a lot. I thought it wasn't something that was easy to settle on. I guess at the end of the day, I've put a lot into bullfighting and this career, and sacrificed a lot. And at this point, the reward is going backwards a bit. The financial reward is going backwards. The pay is definitely decreasing due to circumstance. So it's all things that I try and factor in. It's hard because, as you guys all know, that it's something that we do based on passion, and you try and then factor business in it. And it's like, what makes sense to set everything down and not have anything else but bullfighting. And what am I going to get back out of it? And just at the end of the day, I was like, you know what, I've spent too much time with all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. And that's probably something, if not one of the greater things that this whole situation has kind of brought to my attention, is just like, you got to be diverse, and you got to be able to, pivot, as they say, and be able to adapt to the circumstance. And so that's what I'm doing. Like I said, just put it on pause. Doesn't need to be a bigger decision than that. So that makes it a little bit easier. And I hope, like I say, that the sport border opens up and can get back to doing what I love. Cause money aside, let's hope that we get back to where we were. But at this point, it's just too much to put
amen,
in.
brother. Amen. We're in the same boat up here. We all want to get back to work. It's just, it's tough when your hands are literally tied. You can't even plan anything right now up here.
Yeah.
I wish we could run off to a different province and try to make something work like what Sean's doing in the US right now, but we can't.
Yeah,
it's probably countrywide here, so it's unfortunate.
Okay, Jess.
Well, hey guys, if we get going, Jess can come be our shoot rooster, eh?
Damn right.
Oh yeah, man. I was like asking Tanner about this schedule, because I was like, Jesus Christ, if the border is my issue, well, we need to get the cleats back on up here. So
fucking right. So get it rolling up here.
I might have to check the budget. Shoot rooster might be a better plan. I don't know.
Probably. Yeah, for the risk reward, definitely. On the risk reward side of it, it definitely would be.
Okay, Jess, going back to your early days, how did you get into the sport, and how did you get into bullfighting in particular? You're a well-known athlete, played a lot of hockey, lacrosse, all different sorts of stuff as a kid, but specifically the sport of rodeo and bullfighting in general.
Well, it was I tell everybody, like, that's I guess a common question, and I tell people that it's my dad's fault, and I say that jokingly, but some people look at you like, oh, he made you do that, and I was like, no, but I didn't know any different. He was the one who introduced me to it from day one, and I just remember being a little kid thinking that was the coolest shit there ever was, and just like going to those places and all the sights and sounds, and then just dad being in the middle of it and everything that he did out in the arena. I just remember just constantly kind of being in awe, I guess, of it all, and then finally getting to an age where I could participate in something. Well, I guess it started with the sheep fighting. If I really think about it, I was going to skip right to the junior riding, but
no,
I started.
Well, that's where you got your first conky, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a beer extra.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I could remember, dude. It's catching up. But it started real early, I guess, for me in the cleats. So I got into that sheep fighting pretty good. I thought that was just the bee's knees. I loved being out there with dad and trying to get off in the action. And I remember going to rodeos like Medicine Hat, and they made a pretty big deal out of Bo and I sheep fighting, and made us belts. And I just remember, having those memories, being out in that arena at 4 or 5 years old, probably. And I got overly confident, as all bullfighters will tell you happen. And I got out there trying to put the block on one, and I had long hair back then too, and she whipped back like nothing else when that sheep hit me in the chest, man. And I just remember having to take 5. Didn't really know what the hell it all just happened, and I just remember hands on the knees, bent over, trying to get some air back in me. But that was the initial, I guess, knock that put the bug in me. That's kind of something that stuck with me. I always wanted to get back to being out in that arena, and then I ventured off into some of the riding as I got a little bit older, and did the two-handed steer riding, which was just a terrible idea for me. 2 hands in the rope equaled me getting hit in the face like all the time.
You doubled the odds of yourself being smacked in the face, right? 2 hands.
Yeah, nothing to put out in front of you, just take it in the teeth. But I just wanted to do it. I knew I wasn't really that good at it, but I just kind of thought I'd get better. I never really doubted that it wouldn't come along. I wasn't really putting a lot into it either. When I think about it, you know, I was just kind of like, no, this is how it works. You just go, and eventually it gets better. And it didn't really get better, but I just kind of learned, you know, what it was like to grit shit out, and what being tough was about, and what, you know, just not knowing what you were getting yourself into, but dealing with it. And it taught me a lot.
Scott, just like Scott taking it on the chin.
Over
Taking
and
life
over
on the
and
chin.
over and over.
Are you getting the message yet?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right.
But yeah, once I got one hand in the rope, got old enough to figure that out, and got getting on some bulls, some junior bulls, and that it got a little better, and I kind of started to get a little confidence in it. But it kind of all started to come together right about the time I was old enough to be a bullfighter, or try to be a bullfighter, and that's really just what I'd been waiting on. I just was trying to get to the point where I was old enough to take on that responsibility, and then I got old enough, and I was like, God damn, now I'm gonna have to ask Dad if this is a decent idea.
I know that feeling. I know that feeling.
Well, how old do you think you were, Jess, when you come to because your bullfights was your first step into the arena, right? Like when we were doing those professional Canadian bull riding events, you come to some like a few of them, I think. Didn't you?
That was like, well, that was definitely my
was
first,
down the road.
First foray into freestyling. But yeah, I'd done some protection stuff at a few amateur rodeos prior to that. But yeah, I was 16, I guess, when I finally was like, all right, okay, let's ask Dad if you know, he thinks take this on, give it a go. And yeah, I remember being real nervous about that. Not because not because I was worried that, you know, he was gonna push it on me, or that it was then gonna be something that I had to do if I brought it up, or anything like that. It was more of like, is he gonna tell me no? Because I've been waiting a long time for this, and I just don't want to hear no. So yeah, I asked him, and I just remember him being excited, and you know, being like, yeah, shit, if you want to give it a try, that's great. And it was, you know, it was really nothing more than that. It wasn't, like I said, a pressure situation by any means. And then, you know, luckily it was all in the family, and Scott, you were going to all those rodeos. And at that point, cousin James Northey was doing a bunch of amateur rodeos in Saskatchewan, and I got to get in on the shadow scene. I remember going to like Nipawin and Tisdale, Milestone.
Tisdale story here, Scott.
Oh God, is there ever? Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. He says.
Well. Okay, that's good. No, I'll use the good part of it. We had fought bulls together quite a bit at some of these amateur rodeos, and man, we had fun. Like there was nothing better than fighting bulls, and especially with, you know, your family and stuff. And so we'd go out at night the odd time here and there. And I remember this one time in Tisdale. And it's funny you said earlier in the conversation the bee's knees, because I found Jesse the next morning in the Beehive Hotel. Finally tracked up. But that was the same weekend you were going to Saskatoon, if I remember correct, to I think your dad had come out of retirement, right? And
yeah, he fought with me at the PBR at SaskTel Center.
Yeah,
back in the day. Yep. Yeah.
So I find Jesse, we get heading back to PA to get him in with Ryan, and I wasn't feeling too good, so I made Jesse drive all the way home till we got to the end of your driveway, and then we switched it up to make it look like I was driving.
This guy, there's two more parts to that story that I will tell.
Yes.
And the one was, like you said, Dad was fighting bulls, come out of retirement, so I was using all his old stuff, because I mean he wasn't using it anymore, so.
Oh, you had to get it back to him.
I cracked it all out and used it in Tisdale. Well, we went to leave in the morning. I don't know, the damn building was locked, or we couldn't figure it out, or we forgot. I don't really remember how it all shook out. But
I'm gonna go.
Foggy mornings, that'll happen.
Yeah.
Left left the gear there. So not only was Dad super unimpressed that I was hungover when I got home, he was even more unimpressed that he had to go to Tisdale on his way to Saskatoon.
Pick up his
Oh yeah.
Fresh out of retirement, but
Well, I know how
that I
much
knew
your
he
dad.
did.
I know how much your dad loves driving. So
Oh
Tisdale
man.
to Saskatoon from Prince Albert just doesn't work.
Doesn't do
But I
it.
couldn't believe when I drove all the way back, and then we get to the crossroads, which is like a quarter mile from the house, and Scott's like, pull over. Like, pull over for what? We're home. He's like, no, pull over. I'm driving. I was like, I'm pretty sure I can get it from here. He's like, well, you ain't driving into the yard.
Make me look bad, boy.
Oh God, so fun! It was so fun.
That's good. Back to your, you kind of skipped over though your bull riding days, which a lot of people don't know, was how good of a bull rider that you actually were. And at one point in your career, after fighting bulls for quite some time, same as the Ryan Byrne story you just talked about, decided to bust out of retirement for an event in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, goes fucking hat down with Vinnie Northrup's bull riding gear and wins the bull riding. Hadn't been on in 3-4 years, but it's a testament to how good of a bull rider that you were, and just didn't enjoy it as much, or like you say, just wanted to fight the bulls.
You know, that's funny, man. I kind of forgot about that whole period, and it was just like, I think it was like you say, I just didn't put a lot of thought into it. It was always about bull fighting, and it was just kind of like, that's where I was eventually going to get to. So it was just, bull riding was kind of just something I was doing in the meantime, which, you know, seems like a sketchy way to go about things. But I also, like, I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of parts of bull riding that scared the shit out of me. Like, there was bulls that I would draw that I'd just turn out because, like, that I didn't want to deal with them. So I would have been that guy if I ever tried to make a career out of bull riding, where, you know, I probably wouldn't have been the producer or contractor's favorite guy. But I didn't put a lot of effort into how to get better at it either. I just thought that if I tried hard enough, that it would work out, and I didn't. And then what's funny is when I put it down and then came back to it on that random occasion and just entered and didn't think twice about it, I didn't even realize that I'd never got on without a helmet, and I didn't have one of those that day. So I did it then. And it worked out great. So, and it was fun. And, you know, that did kind of light a fire where I was like, man, I don't know, I probably could have got into this too, but it was one or the other. And I don't regret the choice I made, but there's definitely days where I'm like, that would be fun. And then there's other days like holy shit.
Yeah.
As the responsible one here, I'm going to say I think you made the right choice.
Yeah. I'm going to second that.
Oh shit. So, for just to fucking reiterate that though, the people that were there that day that are listening right now know how good of a bull ride that was that day, and how good you did ride. So for us that kept on riding, we're glad you decided to start bullfighting and not taking
your little bro's money.
Moving past, so you start bullfighting. How does this fucking journey from Tisdale, Saskatchewan with Scott lead to 13 times to the fucking PBR World Finals? Cody Lambert quoting as you being the bushwhacker of bullfighters, which is the best fucking ever. How does this happen, man? Where'd the road lead you? Jason talked about those freestyle bullfightings, rodeos in Canada, sacrificing, going into the US. What's kind of your journey to the top?
Well, it's crazy. I haven't, I guess, spent a whole lot of time reflecting on my career, but did a little bit in the last couple of days. And I was just thinking, like, it happened fast, man. Like it did, happened really fast, and a lot of shit happened in short order. And a lot of it I can attribute to work that I put in, and a lot of it I can attribute to work that my dad put in his career, and busting down some doors for Canadians and myself alike, and just always kind of keeping that one goal in mind, and that was always the PBR World Finals, and that was my goal from day one, and that was kind of the focus. And when it came to rodeo, rodeo in Canada at that point, the biggest thing in Canada was rodeo. There wasn't PBR Canada yet. There was a solid bull riding tour, but like the CFR was still kind of the marquee event as far as Canada was concerned. So I wanted to assert myself into that position and get there at some point. And then the next step was always going to be the PBR World Finals. So it was like, what do I need to do to get that done? And it was just being willing to do it at all costs kind of thing. And yeah, it started out like with a lot of help with Scott, and going to those amateur rodeos where I was just like a freaking firefly from wall to wall, just moving so fast, and everything was just kind of a blur in those early days, where it was like, man, I've watched this so many times, but now from this new perspective, holy shit, this thing's happening fast, so
yeah,
it was trying to get everything to slow down. And I just, like I said, very fortunate throughout my whole career. And it started right off the bat with Scott, you being there, helping me slow things down, and just having that comfort, that family, that expertise, standing there beside you out there in that arena, doing battle with you as a team. That whole dynamic is what really set me off. I remember really taking a liking to that teamwork, duo dynamic. And yeah, especially with it being with Scott. And then just getting that bug in me, I guess, of where now it is slowed down enough where I'm understanding it and seeing it, where I can read this play and figure out where shit's going before it ever gets there, and make a difference in that outcome. And once I was able to start doing that, then it was like, holy man, yeah, this is what's up. This is fun. Like, it was just instantly a feeling of like, this is what I want to be doing, and now I really know why. And
yeah, fucking A.
yeah, and it just kind of
passion.
Wow.
it just fueled me into like wanting to be able to do things that other people weren't able to do. It's like, I can see how everybody can be a part of a wreck. That ain't no big deal. It doesn't take a lot of expertise to get in a pile up, but if you can, stop things that people don't even notice, then I think, that's where I need to be. And that was like something that Dad always drove home.
I abided by that because it was something your dad instilled in me, and right from the very first school of his that I went to. And I will quote, I mean, I was like you, I was running around. I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to do it smooth or plan or read the play. And he said to me, and this is a little bit on a joking side, but he meant it. He said, if you don't slow down, I'm going to chain you to the fucking chutes like a collie dog. Right?
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. Anybody can go in there and get their ass hooked off for no reason. But if you strategically can go in there, save somebody and yourself and your partner, that's you. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think Dad did a good job of driving that home in all of us here on the pod. But it's just like, it was just like you say, though, it just kept growing for me. It was always something that I knew was going to be different every day and always exciting. But the more I understood it, then it just kind of, it just became that much more fulfilling on a different level, where I was like, man, I can make a difference. I can make a difference out here. And I just had to find a way to be able to do that. So it was like, okay, I worked my way through the Saskatchewan ranks of amateur rodeo. Oh, grumpy old Carl Barrett got me my first kickstart into rodeo. It was, back to, I listened to some of the past pods and Jason, talking about working the 250 a day for Carl, and that's what it was. And I was in high school and didn't have no bills. It was like
we were rich, man.
Pretty good run, man.
Let's go.
Just 2-3 perfs a week, man. It was a good go for me. So I hit that hard, went to the CCA finals, I guess, in like 2003, 2004.
Who'd you go with?
What's that?
Who'd you go with?
I went with Rick Hodgson.
Fucking right.
Rick, man, one of my best friends.
Yeah,
such a great guy, man. Rick was a blast to work with, and we had so much fun. I miss that guy, but we ripped it up. We spun back Carl's bulls for him pretty good. It was like back in the day where you work by yourself, and the more rounds you could make in 8 seconds, the higher the score was.
No shit. You might be, instead of 67, you're 73.
And you didn't spin back one of Carl's or a lot of those bulls that time. You spun all of them back. Right?
All of them.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man. All of those bulls. And then, God forbid one got you down, because it's nothing more embarrassing than when a guy's still riding the bull and you're underneath of him.
So you go to the CCA finals and then keep working it up past there to the pro rodeos?
Yeah, I made it out. I guess after I got the CCA finals, it was kind of like some validation that I was doing things right and making steps. So I think the next thing I really tried taking on was some of the bull ridings. There was a few openings at those, but man, at that time, it was a pretty full deck of bullfighters. James, Riley, Gerlitz, Kelly Morton, Scott, TJ was still going. I think at that, TJ was definitely still going at that point.
Scott Way.
Yeah, so there was not a lot of openings. I got a few bull ridings and stuff, but then that's kind of when I forayed into the bullfights a bit, because there was damn sure openings in those if they were having them.
For some reason, no one was lining up.
No,
Dirty Sanchez might have had something to do with that, though. Dirty Sanchez definitely deterred a few guys from entering up.
All the turnout bulls that nobody wanted to get on, and they were now in the bullfights.
I was glad Dirty Sanchez was in the bullfights, because that meant they weren't bucking them anymore. It was awesome.
Exactly. I got to deal with all those fun ones in the freestyle bullfights. So it was like, another way to try and make a name and gain some skills, because at the end of the day they all apply. So it was just like, all right, well, let's give this a go. I sure as hell loved watching those Wrangler bullfight tapes. We wore those out. So it's like, all right, we'll try and see if I got those skills in me from watching enough tapes. But we did some practicing in the backyard, and I honestly think that PA at the fairgrounds was my first competition.
Pearl Jam.
We'd done it at home once or twice with Dad and at the arena there, and then I think my hometowner was my debut in the freestyles. So I had Pearl Jam, the black and white.
Yeah, and he was hot. He was always good for the first 20 too. Like he would come and he was on your hip. Is that okay? I know one bullfight, and I don't know if it was Prince Albert or if it was in Patricia, maybe. Did you come to Patricia, Alberta for us? Yeah, shit. But you were down on your hands and knees making rounds on one, and I thought it might have been Pearl Jam. It might have been.
That was Dirty Sanchez.
And
Patricia, and that wasn't intentional.
No, it wasn't. No,
but I left her a little bit early. Imagine that, because anything was early with that bull. but yeah, he cut me off, and I got around, like I made it like a half round with him, and then he bumped me in the hip pretty hard and knocked me to my knee. And I remember just like scrambling like a bull rider who just hit the dirt, I was just like scratching around the corner on my hands and knees, got another round out of him and got myself gathered up and carried on. But yeah, that was a trick too. That bull was not supposed to be in the draw that day. It was a calf bullfight where it was all 2-year-olds, and my bull didn't fight. So that was the re-ride you ran in, Jason. Thank you.
Sorry, buddy. I tried to help you out with the calf, and he just didn't work for you.
So then you go to the pro rodeos and get the CFR right away. Did you pull the old Scott Byrne on Jason and fucking snake him, and then he had to call you and tell him that you got him? Or how did your CFR experience go?
No, actually, so yeah, I did those bullfights for a couple years. And then, was slowly picking up some bull ridings, and then I got my permit in the CPRA and went with Scott to fill that old Rocky Mountain House and a bunch of rodeos for Wayne.
Barely. I think you were left my house, didn't you, one morning?
Oh yeah,
made it to Rocky Mountain House.
That was Cranbrook.
On our way to
Cranbrook,
even further.
Even further.
Shouldn't have went to a rock concert the night before.
Was that Ozzy the night before, Jess? Or Nickelback?
No, it was your kitchen table is what it was. We never left your place. There was no
We didn't even go to a concert that night?
No.
Because Jess and I have had
your
some
own rock concert
ordeals at rock concerts.
Yeah, that's what I just assumed.
Yeah, I thought that might have been what it was, actually.
Man, no. Apparently we didn't need a concert that night. We were at the concert.
I remember you guys sat around and were trying to figure out if you should fly, because when you got up, there's no way we're gonna make it, and I was driving, and then you pissed around looking for flights. For, I don't know, half an hour and 45 minutes. And then you kind of just shrugged your shoulders like, I guess we'll give it a try. And you guys drove it.
Mm-hmm.
And we made it.
Yeah,
made it.
Yeah, we did.
So was Scott with you in Innisfil?
An adventure, man.
Was Scott with you in Innisfil when you tore your knee out playing fucking hacky sack?
No. Scott wasn't there that time. But let's clarify too. We're going to just bring up random facts.
I got lots of those.
I didn't tear I did technically finish the deal playing hacky sack, but my knee was already well buggered up. I would say it was like 95% tore, and then the one little inside kick for the old hack and sack polished her off. But then I went. So that happened during the day. Then I went into the office to find old Jack Danes to tell him that I was done, but I was all proud. I'd phoned and found, I think it was Kelly Morton or somebody to come fill in. So I had that all taken care of. So whatever, I'm nervous, but I go into his office, tell him the deal. And I'm like, oh, Jack, I fucked up my knee. I'm not going to be able to fight bulls for the rest of the week, but, I said, I'm not going to be able to go for the rest of the week, but don't worry. I got a guy coming in to fill in. He's like, wow, you don't need a guy to fill in. And I was like, well, what are you going to do? He's like, well, fuck, it don't matter. Just if you're out, you're out. And I was like, well, what are you going to do, Jack? And he's like, well, I don't know. You're a fucking bareback rider, aren't you? No, Jack, I'm the bullfighter you hired. So we got that sorted out. But yeah, there was, oh God, that's cool. Those rodeos, man, there was more adventure in it, in the outside the arena as there was in. It was always something. So there was plenty of characters and plenty of good times. But I guess
Jess, there's still a divot of you and Hazar in the arena.
Yeah. When you were asking about Patricia, that's what I thought you were going to talk about.
So did I.
Oh God, I think that was the white bull or the black, the Ludicrous or No Mercy. I can't remember which one of those two. And you got behind the barrel, and it had been raining, and it was just a bog hole out there. And Jess kind of was going was working the barrel, and that barrel got away on him and went right over top of him. And so did the bull. And Jess just laid there, this spread eagle. And there was actually a divot of Jess's body from the barrel rolling over him in the arena.
Oh,
a perfect mud angel.
Oh yeah, mud
angel. I remember that because I was tired, man. I was tired from running around out there in the mud, and I was like, man, I'm just gonna take 5 behind this barrel. And then he smoked it. My feet got stuck in the ground, and it's like, I guess I should have stayed making circles out there in the middle. But but yeah, I got through quite a few rodeos in a couple of years in pretty short order because of TJ's career coming to an end. Basically, when he retired from working for Wayne, then Wayne Vold, that is, that's when my rodeo career in Canada really took off. Wayne had the biggest run and just a lot of great rodeos. So that's when it really got busy for me. And oddly enough, that's when I'd kind of at the same time really started making some traction with these bull ridings. And I'd been working really hard to try and to get my way south. I knew that's, like I said, eventually where I wanted to end up. So alongside those rodeos, I picked up some bull ridings in the US, and that was all based on US bull riders coming up to Canadian events, whether it be, they were all mostly all produced by you, Jason, right? Like those early PBR events in Canada where guys like Adam and Gilbert Carrillo were coming up, Mark Ward. Those are all guys that, I met via those events. And then in turn, they were having events of their own stateside. And I was fortunate enough to have guys, like Mark and Adam invite me down. And that's what really, my first trip to the US was to the Carrillo Ranch in Stephenville, to their event. Cool. That's Adam. That's because Adam was at the PBR in Prince Albert.
No shit.
And we signed autographs at the Dodge dealership. I think it was
the dealership across the road.
Anderson Chrysler, baby.
That's how I got to know him and got those doors opened up. And so, I just kind of that was an eye opener to me there. It was just like, hey man, if you want to go, you got to put the word out. You're not going to get invited unless you ask or you tell people that's what you're trying to accomplish. So, I started putting the word out pretty good. And Mark Ward hired me to do some of his events, which really helped me out a lot and opened some doors. And,
well, I know you talked enterprise events too, didn't you, Jess? You made that one run to Jerry Nelson's events too, right? Or was that the next spring?
Yeah, no, that was kind of, I guess, the next spring when I started. And it was Super Bowl events with
that's right.
George Marshall, another fellow who helped me out a lot, and I didn't know George at all, but he's a legendary producer down there that did hundreds of events, if not thousands, and always ran things on a tight budget. And at that time, Jay Doherty was the touring pro division boss. And Jay's another guy that I met via the events in Canada, and he helped me out a lot too. I showed Jay that I was serious about taking this all on, and he put me in front of some people that could help, and George was one of them. And Jay, I remember Jay telling me, he's like, all right, well, just know that George is all about budgets, and if you ask for a lot of money, that means the guy you're working with isn't going to be worth much. So it's like, okay, we'll find the balance.
I remember talking about this in my garage because you were living in the city here in your apartment, and you're like, yeah, but it's only going to pay this much. And I'm like, you got to go.
Yeah.
Like you know, and that was a small investment you had to make in yourself to go. And we've all done it. We've all done it on this pod.
Yeah.
Like I recall going to Steamboat Springs because your dad couldn't go. And I went for one weekend for Harry. And I'll tell you what it paid. Not very much to drive to Steamboat Springs back, but it opened up. I got Colorado Springs and a few more events at Steamboat. And sometimes you gotta make that sacrifice. And I do remember that when you were saying, it's just like, yeah, but I'm probably not gonna make any money, because back then it was $600-$700 for a flight just to get there. And then you got to get a hotel room and all that, you're leaving a little money on the table, but I think it worked out in the long run.
I kind of want to establish, Jesse, for the people that are watching, you came on the scene and you were grinding it out, and you surpassed a lot of bullfighters in Canada that had actually been doing it, 5 years sooner than you ever came along. And I remember having a conversation with some of these bullfighters. They're like, well, how come Jesse's getting all these deals down south? How come Jesse's getting this? And I'm like, you guys don't see, this kid is traveling south. He's going, for very little money. He's paying his dues. And when those guys kind of realized that they can maybe just sat back a little bit thinking there was no threat, it was too late. You were already long gone, and I remember these guys just thinking, I guess that's maybe what I should have been done. But that's
you got to be a bit of a hustler.
Grinding it out.
You got to hustle it out. And I see it I've seen it the last 15 years, even since I've been done. People just, it's easy for them to fucking trip on their lip over what they don't have. Well, go get it, Yeah. And Jesse, you went and got it. There's no question. It don't matter if your last name would have been, whatever, you would have still figured it out. And, that's what makes me real proud of what you've accomplished, because you did hustle your ass. I know we've had conversations and I watched you go to work, and, you didn't take anything for granted. You worked for it. So good for you.
I appreciate that. It was like, I think, when I look back to, it's like, I probably was blessed to be good and naive at that point in my life too, where, like I said, I didn't have a lot of doubts. It was just like, this is what I'm going to do. And I didn't let the hurdles deter me. It was just like, all right, let's get this figured out and keep moving. And I knew also at the same time that every time that I did get the door open or get an opportunity, that it needed to count, and like that there was no messing around, because I knew, damn well that people really remember the bad stuff and don't really remember the mediocre or even the good. So, it was like, all right, you got your one shot here to do what you do. But I think, what really propelled me, and somehow I managed to hang on to this, and I don't exactly know the answer, other than, like I said, my dad hammering the message home in me that it's not about me, but it was always trying to find the line, if this makes sense, of doing everything you can, but not doing too much. And as a bullfighter, I feel like it's really easy, like I said, to get there. Okay, I got this door open, now I got to shine. And you're going to do all kinds of extra shit to prove a point or to get seen. And that's the stuff that drives me crazy, man. Like, this is a useless waste of time, and you're causing more issue than you're preventing. So to me, it's just like,
hero.
Yeah. And I can see it. I can see how, like I said, you put this much pressure on each and every opportunity, how you can turn it into something like that. But for me, I was able to hang on to that balance, I guess, in that sense, where it was just like, people will really notice when there's no wrecks, and there's nobody out there that's needing help from Sport Med.
One time, Jesse, when you did seize that opportunity in Las Vegas, your first year getting called into the World Finals as an alternate, Joe Baumgartner goes down. You get called in. Zach Brown's hang up. It's all over the internet. You know, everybody knows about it. Was that kind of a career changing moment for you? Do you feel like?
100%. Yeah, man. That was the craziest year of my career. It was really the turning point, I guess. So I get earlier in that fall, I got the phone call that I've been selected for my first Canadian finals rodeo. And then as it worked out that year, that it was overlapping with the PBR World Finals the second week. That was back when it was a 2-week competition. And I was sitting at home the week before the Canadian finals rodeo, watching week 1 of PBR World Finals, and Joe Baumgartner went down with a broken ankle. And, right away, it was like the light bulb kind of went off. It was like, man, I wonder if they'll bring the next guy in. And, as it worked out that year, I was going to be the next guy if there was anybody going. So, the thoughts got going, and sure enough, the next morning I got the call, and man, I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. At the same time, then I had to turn out essentially of the Canadian finals rodeo, and that was a whole mix of emotions in itself. But obviously made the choice to go to Vegas, and yeah, that was crazy. That hang up was something that I'll never forget. It was a blur, but at the same time, it just feels like I could remember most all of it pretty clearly, even to this day. Just felt like, I remember feeling like I was about 20 feet in the air at one point, and it was just kind of all over the map, but I was locked in good. I had the old hook in there, and I was locked in trying to get that tail, and we were all kind of draped all over that bull, and we was able to get him out. And I remember like the crowd was just going crazy, and my hat had come off, and my hair was like all over the place. And Cody Lambert,
not as long as it is today.
Not today, no. About half the length. And Cody Lambert come over to me there, and I thought, I naively thought that he was going to give me a compliment, and
naively thought
he looks at me, and he's like, "Get your fucking hat back on. Your hair looks terrible." I was like, "Oh, yes, sir." The Sunday of the finals, it was kind of really setting home to me that I was a part of this now, and it felt like I belonged there, and that was in big part to Joe and Shorty and Frank. But Shorty took it upon himself. That last day they still had a big banquet back then. Randy Bernard, he used to put on a big old production on Sunday and bring everybody together. And I remember sitting in that banquet, and they got to the bullfighter part, and I was sitting at the table with all the guys and Dad, and then they called those guys all up for their buckles, and Shorty, he's like, "Get up, you're coming with me, and you're coming with us." And then it's like, "What? No, I don't need, I don't need a buckle. I only did half of it. I wasn't here for the first week." And he's like, "Bullshit." And he's like, "You earned it. Get your ass up." And we went up there, and he had already talked to Randy, and Randy had got me a buckle and stuff. So,
Damn.
and it was pretty cool. It just like surreal. It was,
Yeah,
it
no
was
shit. 13 years later,
to
you're still there.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't scheduled to be on tour the next year because there was guys ahead of me, so in 2009, I guess I did probably like 5 or 6 events just based on guys either taking weeks off or being injured. A few were definitely for Joe, and then I ended up getting the finals, getting in the top 4 the next year. So that from then on, I was part of the regular bunch on tour.
Who did you dust? Who did you dust out?
Well, I leapfrogged a couple people, but I guess like the year I went into full time on tour made Joe the 4th guy. So it was kind of like bittersweet because Joe is one of my heroes growing up. Just idolized him and the way he operated in the arena, and man, I just saw out,
no show. Joe just did his job.
That same deal, man. I'm just taking care of business, and it was just like, that was my dream. It was so cool fighting bulls with him, and so to have him kind of go out on the outside was a little bit bittersweet, but he was so cool about it. He's like, "Oh man, I'm your number 1 sponsor. You should put Joe B on your shirts."
So life, now like we talked, 13 years you've been there since, a mainstay on that tour, going to go down as one of the best bullfighters that there's ever been in the industry, that's for sure. But what a lot of people don't know, and what we could see on your social media and stuff, is mental health is obviously a huge part of your life, and maybe just dig into that a little bit deeper of how, even though you're at the highest level and at the top of your game, there's always those days where you need to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah, for sure, man. A lot's changed in my life in the last 2-3 years, especially. And I think, like we've touched on, that bullfighting was always my number 1 focus. And it took basically my entirety. Like, I had to just submerge myself in bullfighting and, trying to attain a goal, which I did. But it came at a cost, for sure. And such is life. But if you try and deal with that by yourself, it just gets tougher. And that's what I really come to find is that, facing shit is where it's at, and that's not really been my way outside of the arena. And it's kind of ironic that's what made me so successful inside the arena. Was always taking the fight to it, and then I'd leave the arena and do the opposite, where I just want to avoid shit or pretend shit wasn't bugging me. And if you can't be honest with yourself, I've learned that you can't be honest with others. And so to me, that's where it started, was just getting honest with myself, like spending some time with myself. There's a big difference between isolating and laying low and distracting yourself from actually spending time with yourself. Because I did a lot of that. I was like, man, I can't operate at 100 miles an hour all day, every day. And that's what those weekends, what it's like being at rodeos or bull ridings. It's like, go, 100 miles an hour. And it's people coming at you all day, every day with questions and requests. And then you get home and it's like, fuck, I need a break. A lot of the time I wasn't taking care of myself, and I really needed a break, and so I just hide out. I just try and shut it all off and not want to deal with shit. And it just builds. And that's been my biggest lesson, is that you either acknowledge what you got going on and face it, or you can pretend it's not there. But I promise you from experience that when you pretend, and that shit just grows, and when it shows up, it's worse than it ever was. So like, I just really try hard to not pretend with myself and be honest. Why am I doing what I'm doing? it's a great question for me to ask myself all the time, and just kind of operate off of that and keep my values as what's driving me, because I did a lot of like searching for something outside of me that was gonna make things better. I think we've all probably got into positions where it's like, if I just get to this point, if I just get this job or just get to this level, then this will get better.
It does.
And it was a
Fucking
shitty, harsh reality that what I had in mind was a fantasy that, that everything was just going to be gravy if I got to the Built for Tough series on the PBR tour. It's like,
fucking
so naive, but that's what I believed. And then, it was like, oh my God, this isn't what I thought it was. And there's kind of this disappointment that I find come with expectations in general. If you're assuming that it's going to be bad, it's probably going to be bad. And if you're assuming it's going to be real good, then, it's maybe not going to live up to the hype. So it's just like, it is what it is, and it is what you make of it. And that's what I've learned is I guess, that the solution's in me, that I have the solution. But I can't do it alone. Like you said, it's just like starts with me, but it needs to include others. And if I, can be honest with myself, then I can be honest with others of where I'm at. And, we can talk about it, because some days are shitty, man. Some days are harder than others. And I don't care who you are. I'm sure that there's days where it's like, everything's a question, what am I doing? Why am I having so much hell? And if you try and pretend that that's not the case, then I feel like it's just going to lead to more tough days. So
I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%.
Well, and Scott, you can probably attest to this a bit too. It's been a long time since I did those runs, but like there was years, Jess, you went, in the Built for Tough series, you're going every week of January, February, March into April. And then usually the middle of May, you break, you get up to Canada, then you start, Scott and I did those runs for years. You leave the house starting Innisfail, then to Wainwright, then to Ponoka, then into Calgary, Shaunavon, Morris, Medicine Hat, Strathmore. Like you're not home. Were you better when you were that busy, or do you think maybe that's when you should have had some more Jesse Byrne time?
I think that it eventually got to a point, and that's what happened with my rodeo career, is that I wanted to take a step back. I was like, this schedule is nuts, man. Like I was on 100 plus flights a year, and then, working 60 rodeo perfs in between. And so, yeah, it was just like, holy Christ, when's the off season, boys? But I wanted to take 1 or 2 weeks off, but then it kind of was like, well, I guess in my mind, the way I looked at it was, I didn't want to, I was working for committees mostly, I guess, at that point, rodeoing, and had developed a relationship with all of those different committees. And I didn't really want to tell one of them that I wasn't coming and not the other, like, no, yeah, Blair, I'll come to Ponoka, but sorry, Art, I'm not going to make it to Wainwright. It's not good enough or big enough, or, I just stepped back and put them all down. I didn't go to any rodeos. I needed to drop that and focus on what was my main job and main goal, and that was the PBR side of things. So that's what put a halt to my Canadian rodeo career. But I guess it was just like the bullfighting was the thing, no matter what, that I never had any doubts in. I knew that when I got in the arena that I was fully capable. I had no doubts about my ability. And is where I felt the most comfortable. And so
it's that's that as soon as you get the cleats off and you gotta, you feel like you're obligated to have a beer with somebody, or you got to entertain somebody,
or 35 of them.
Or
but you're
until you get on the whiskey.
You're
until
right.
you switch to whiskey.
Yeah.
yeah.
She's rock and roll, man. It is full force, right? As much as
It is.
You're
100% right. People don't understand that the bullfighting was the easiest part of it all. It was easy.
Yeah.
You walked in, you did your job, you're in control, you knew what you had to do, you walked out, and then it was just kind of like, I like to use the word chaos. It was just, where do we go? What do we do?
I was just thinking it. And sometimes in places like, and nothing, you got Pinoca, there's usually more events happening around, so it's a little more of a professional atmosphere maybe. Then you get to Morris, Manitoba. Well, Scott, seriously, like you and I, well, we're lucky we got wives right now because of Morris, Manitoba.
Well, I don't know about you, but
bullshit. I just thought I'd be a good teammate and throw my name out there because I wasn't getting phone calls from my father-in-law. You were.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, you know what? But you get out there. I'll never forget waking up in Morris I flew out. Twyla came with me, and we woke up on a Monday morning in that Super 8. And the midway was coming down, and there's like a tumbleweed going across the asphalt. I'm like, oh my God, obviously hungover, in 4 days. And you're nowhere near the airport lounge, nowhere near it. You still got to get dressed, showered, and get to the airport lounge so you can get home. But I always thought about that with you in the end too, Scott. We talked about it. Tanner, you one day we might have this discussion too. But at some point you want to give it up, but you don't know if you can or if you want to. Shit, Scott, you and I talked about you retiring for 3 years. I bet at least 3 years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. And that's the thing. It's such a great thing. And like we say, it's easy, right? It is. I mean, I'm sorry. I was fortunate enough that was easy. And that's the draw to it. It's, for lack of a better term, it's easy money. When other people from the outside looking in would be like, are you crazy? How can that be easy? But when you do decide to set it down, I mean, luckily it was my choice, but hey, that come with some mental struggles too. And I kind of want to go back to Jesse when you decided to quit the whole rodeo run in Canada. I was taken back as much as anybody else because it wasn't something that you really discussed with me, and that was fine. When I did call you on it, it was that simple. You said, man, I just need some time. And it all made sense to me. You just got to take a breath sometimes and have that little bit of an off season, especially what people I don't think understand with you is the travel. Like when you're flying out of Canada South and flying home every weekend, that doubles up your job, 2 times over, just the time and the energy. Am I correct?
Yeah, man. And I was taking it to the max too. It's just like,
and
that's how I grew up, man. It was just like that's what was the generation. It was just like, you make the most out of it all, and it was just like, never.
Yeah, there was no going back to the hotel to watch a movie.
No, it was like, what are we gonna do that's cool now? And that it was like there was a whole herd of guys doing it, and we did have lots of fun and rolled on pretty hard, but it caught up for sure. And just like you're saying with the chaos and then I guess what really stands out to me is this balance of trying to find like a place for yourself in the chaos, if that makes sense, where like there's all this shit going on around you, but you're still taking care of you. You're still doing you, and you're not letting that outside influence take you away. And, I think about what I said and what you just said now, Scott, with me not talking to you or having that conversation prior making that decision. And I think, you know, that's, to me, that's a good indicator of, you know, where I was at that point in my life. I wasn't being honest with myself. Like I was like, and that was maybe a blip of me being honest that I needed to take a break and doing it. But I didn't even really want to face it. I was just like, okay, just make the decision. Don't go to those rodeos. But I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to make a deal out of it. I was just going to pretend, because it was like, I felt bad. I felt like I was failing, like, because it was like, I shouldn't need a break. That's how I live my life. It was like, you don't need sleep. You don't need rest. Hell, you barely need to eat. Like, you just go. And so it was like, yeah, it was hard for me to be honest and be like, okay, no, I can't do this. And you know, looking back, I wasn't 100% with myself, or else I would have been able to talk to you about it. But yeah, that was
return a text.
Or return a text or calls.
But you know, but all joking aside, in hindsight, I mean, that was probably one of the better decisions of your career. Do you not agree?
Yeah, it was like, well, it was just like, taking a whole chapter out of the book, basically, you know, like that's what I grew up on. And I had a lot of pride in kind of carrying that on, and still, you know, being in those places that I was sheep fighting at and all that. So yeah, it definitely wasn't an easy decision. And I spent a lot of time missing, you know, I'd get to a point where I was well rested in July and be like, man, it'd be cool to be rodeoing a little bit, but it was the right, you know, it was the right choice for me. For sure. And I just,
you didn't have to worry about any escalators at the Calgary Stampede.
That's right. Watch out for those escalators. Hey,
oh man,
I take things seriously, and you guys were, you know, complimenting me on my drive, and it was a race, and it was the first one to the bottom wins. There was no rules, and I took a shortcut on accident.
You won.
And
you won.
Was definitely the first one to the bottom.
I remember the clown room the next day, and Flint, you know, Papa Flint, looking down on all of us. He's just like, Jesse's got to slow down. Like, he's going to hurt himself.
Hey, what was it? You fell off the escalator that was going down, but landed how many stories down? I don't know how many stories. A lot of stories down. Two or three, and he landed on the ones that were coming back up.
Going up.
Yeah.
Oh, he was parked up. Your back. Man. That was.
Do you remember the next morning in the dressing room? You come, slowly walking in, and of course I hadn't really gone out that night, so I was just ready to hit the day, and I was gonna ask Smacky, just like, "Hey, cuz, what's going on?" And you're like, "No," because you had like 6-inch long escalator grooves in your left butt cheek. Like, unreal, man. Unreal.
They're still there. But yeah, that wasn't good. I drank too much that day, and then I don't even know, like, honestly, I don't know what got us to the point where we thought we should have been racing down the escalators, but I remember thinking the next day, like, oh, that was bad, but not that bad. And then I went back up there and seeing where I fell to where I landed, and it actually, like, made my stomach turn. Just like, oh my God, it is a wonder I'm still alive. So I try and remind myself that also every day, that
to stay away from escalators.
Somebody's keeping you around for a reason.
Bigger things. Okay, we're gonna start wrapping up. We've held you for a really long time, and I got pages of stuff left, so we'll have to get you back to go into your the whole career of the 13 years on tour, because there's a lot of crazy cool times. But what stands out to you as of just your time on that tour, just living that life at the highest level? Is is there any certain story or certain ride or a certain event that really stands out to you, or a time of that era? What stands out to you of being at the highest level of your sport?
Oh, good
Oh,
question. Little
well,
pro.
there's,
Yeah,
Question.
very good.
yeah, that is a good question. There's a lot. I think if you think about the places, I mean, like getting to go to New York was always a highlight of the year, and just, you know, it was always felt like we were introducing bull riding to like this crazy big new audience of people that had never seen anything like it before, and so it was always this crossover that that I always had a lot of fun with there. But you know, it's hard to say whether it was inside the arena or outside, because as you know, Tanner, there was always guests, special guests at each and every one of those events. You know, there's like Sylvester Stallone, Tim McGraw. I did a shoot tour with Martha Stewart one day, and just like an endless amount of people from different walks of life that I would have never ever met, crossed paths with, if it wasn't for the career.
When you locked Shania Twain out of your dressing room?
Shania Twain. Yeah. Like, who the hell is it? Oh, hi, Shania. Oh God, yeah. And so yeah, it's just like all those, you know, those stories of different athletes, and getting to hear people's stories from all sorts of walks of life. And then in the arena, I've just had like the coolest fortune of seeing so many great bull riders. Like, it's been like the first year I went was Adriano's retirement year. So I was at his last finals. I was at Shivers's last finals, McBride's last finals. Just all, you know, all those guys through the different eras now that have come and gone, and now, you know,
all of JB's finals you've been to.
Yeah,
you and JB are on a long career.
Run. And it was just constantly, those guys would constantly provide moments where it was just like, holy shit. I remember just thinking like, hey, you know, you'd think you'd maybe seen it all, or like, how's it going to get better than that? And they'd step up and do it even better the next time. So there was just a lot of crazy careers. I feel like Renato's ride on airtime is one that stands out to me as something that was crazy, especially because he just used an American rope. That whole circumstance. But yeah, and then the bulls, like I think about Bushwhacker and being around for his whole career, and that whole saga was just like crazy. Yeah. There was so many fans that would show up just for Bushwhacker, and like all the fanfare that he got. And I think some special events stand out in my mind. We did we buck bulls in Times Square in New York, shut down Times Square 2 blocks and buck bulls right there. Yeah, that's under the lights. Yeah, that was pretty wicked. And then we did a bulls on the beach in Manhattan Beach one year. That was wicked cool, right on the sand. And then some international trips, I guess, like Brazil. We went to World Cup down in Brazil, and that was just like an unreal experience that I'll never forget. And another trip I'll never forget because of the PBR was headed up to Alaska. I know that came up with JP's podcast. Yeah. I was up there in the mix of that too, man. Like, crazy times. But it was cool too, because dad went to a lot of those things with me. So we got to share in that. And then Brian Rude, family friend, was up in Alaska with us too. So I'll remember that forever. But honest to God, man, I know this is going to sound sappy, but the best part of my career on tour was when you were there. It's just like having family, being able to do that whole deal with you and sharing like that whole childhood dream, and just being able to do it together was the coolest thing that I've ever experienced. And yeah, something I'm just like super grateful for. I think that was just a wicked time in my life for sure.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was like, fuck, I didn't even make the list. Like maybe 12th or 13th I'll take even. Jesus. No, that was fucking cool. Like you say, the childhood dreams of just growing up watching those, even the Wrangler bullfights tapes and all the videos, and just that dream of one day going there. And then to be able to, for me, I was super lucky because you'd already established yourself. So when I came in, everybody was already nice to me because of who you were. So
what he's saying, he's really working the Byrne name. You didn't have to. Tanner's really leaning on cousin Scott and big bro.
I still do, motherfuckers. I retired from riding and now I'm fighting them. I'm leaning on it more than ever now.
When Tanner first, we went through the cycle, because when Tanner first came around, he was Jesse's brother, and then by the time he was been around there for 5-6 years now, all of a sudden I was Tanner's brother. I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay, Scott has the infamous question of the show.
Well, Jesse, it's been so good to catch up to you again and hear your stories. And well, the hashtag NFP, the NFP podcast, we all have our own take on it, and I really want to know, what's yours?
NFP, well, I actually had to explain to the lady at the Burger King drive-thru the other day what NFP was, which I did pause, and she guessed it. You know, to me, I know, Jason, I know that you started the NFP based on guys not showing up to events, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah, and I think I just like to apply that to life. It's just like, you got to show up. You know, it's just like, you can cut and run, or you can show up, and show up's where you win. So you don't have to have the answers. You don't need to know. You just need to show up. And that's what it means to not be a pussy to me, is just fucking show up.
Fucking A.
I want to say thanks though too before you finish her off though, because I didn't get to really touch on like Scott and Jason personally, but honestly, both, like, undoubtedly, both of you guys helped me to no end in my career, and I 100% would not have got to where I got without both of you. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it, buddy. You'd have got there.
Yeah, cool. And I never considered it as help. I considered it as, this was the greatest. This was so much fun. You talked about you and Tanner being able to do it, right? For us to be able to do it.
Oh, God, dude,
it was so fun. I mean,
it was unreal. That was the most fun.
Let's all be honest with each other. You know, if it wasn't for Ryan, you know, we all learned enough from him. We weren't gonna be pussies, and you weren't doing it halfway or even 3/4 of the way if you wanted your dad's help or your uncle's help. There was no doubt, Jess, you know, and Scott and Tanner, you guys were all gonna make it, because that's how you guys were raised, and that's how I was taught. So, you know,
I agree 100%. There's just one thing that I think has to happen. We all had to go into these goddamn bullfights to get our name out there. When's Tanner stepping up to the plate?
I got a bunch of muleys out here I've been fighting.
No shit.
Thank you, Jesse Byrne, for joining us on the NFP podcast presented by 3D Entertainment.